thumbs up. We're good to go.
Okay.
I'm excited about this. This is like something I can eat besides that bloody mountain.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
Makes me pregnant, giving birth in the woods.
I'm gonna
freaking.
So let's get.
It is no. I am not joking.
Let's talk about that first. Okay, we'll segue
Let's start
into.
off with bowel movements.
Yeah, let's.
Bowel movements of big-headed babies.
Yes.
What it is. Freaking.
Okay.
Oh, what? Move my mic closer. It's going to be next to my tonsils.
Can you hear him? Yeah, I can hear him fine. He's deafening me, in fact. I mean.
And being able to see that it's not taking a lot of time. Your diet doesn't have to be based around deprivation.
Right.
You can eat really healthy, delicious food, or exercise in a way that's fun, and have your health all the way until you're as old as you want to be.
It sounds too good to be true, though.
So now, with what you're doing now, we can take that into the woods with us, right? So I don't have to give birth to twins in the woods, right? This is what this is about now, right?
Hello, all right. You're listening to the Gritty Bowman, home of gritty bow hunting films, interviews, tall tales, and a wee bit of manly boasting.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
On this episode of Gritty Bowman, we hang out with Heather Teresa Kelly. Heather Kelly is an evolutionary sports nutritionist. She is the owner and operator of Open Nutrition and the creator of Heather's Choice. She attended college at Western Washington University, where she was a 2-time NCAA national champion in women's rowing. She was born and raised in Alaska, and she loves adventuring in the backcountry. She is an all-around badass. And a nerd. A food nerd. And that's how Heather's Choice was born. Heather has created her own epic backcountry meals, and they're now available to all of us. All of the recipes Heather has developed for Heather's Choice are meant to be nutritionally balanced and made with the highest quality ingredients available. Heather believes that everyone deserves to have a healthy and satisfying relationship with food, which comes from eating nutritious and satiating foods. If you like what Heather is doing, support her company. Go online to heatherschoice.com and buy some of her products and give them a try. I recommend Heather's Packaroons. I especially like the orange vanilla bean Packaroons. They're rad. But order more than one package, because you'll want to eat another package of them as soon as you finish the first.
If you like the show, please go to our website at grittybowman.com and subscribe to this podcast and tell your mates and pals about us. Do us a favour and please take a moment to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes or on our YouTube channel. Send your questions and podcast ideas to grittybowman@gmail.com. If you're listening to this on iTunes, you can see the video version of this podcast on our website at www.grittybowman.com.
Yeah.
You asked me earlier, like, what do you do for exercise? And I'm like, I might work out like 45 minutes in a week.
Yeah, I saw you in the convention area, like in the hotel, and I was like, who's that jacked girl over there? Like, you got some guns, you know, you got some shoulders, you're
push-ups, man.
You don't look like, you look like an athlete.
Well, that's the thing, though. If you eat right, you eat that way, you don't have to do this. When I lost that 50 pounds, okay, Heather, I didn't exercise one bloody time. I didn't do one bloody push-up. I didn't do anything. That's when I went, hey.
I tried to get him to, but.
Right, he's one thing at a time.
And I started yes.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. I'm here with Heather's Choice. Heather, what is your last name?
Kelly.
Kelly. 2 first names?
I know, Heather Teresa Kelly. Got 3 first names.
Heather, Scottish, Kelly, Irish. What the hell?
Well, okay. And we got, of course, Brownlee here, and you own Heather's Choice.
That's a good name. I like that name.
I know.
Like that?
It is.
I
it
like
really
that.
is.
That's good.
And actually, we've been kind of stalking you a little bit and watching, not in a creeper way. Just
appropriately.
Just like the internet way.
Right. Yeah, totally. We've been trying to find out what, I've been watching all your products and looking at it, and you basically have, you do like backcountry meals, but they're just awesome, like nutritionally and so forth. So we're going to get into that. One of the reasons we wanted to get into this is because really we don't think there's anything on the market at all that is like what you're offering. So instead, what there is on the market and what we tend to use frequently
we are forced to use Mountain Bloody House.
Mountain House. And Mark has some interesting experiences. So I take Mark up to the mountains for the first time, and I'm like, yeah, you buy these like Mountain House meals, add water, boil, add water, and then boom, gourmet like stroganoff, whatever.
Right.
Lasagna.
You eat them, and they're just delicious.
Right. So we get up there on the mountain. Mark cracks one open, right? And you actually were like, this is pretty tasty.
I ate two of them.
After you hike like all those miles, you're like, this isn't bad.
Right.
And
then the next day, they don't come out. And this is the issue, but you still have to eat because you're starving. So you eat some more. And then the next thing you know, you're birthing a little person. I'm not kidding you. I was in tears.
Yeah.
In bloody tears.
Yes. So it's also, I mean, it's got a lot of salt in it.
Right,
It's got a lot of, everything wrong in it. So, and so Heather, with that segue,
what's Heather's choice?
Tell us about yourself and then how you even got it. Why did you do this? Did you give birth in the woods, much like our Scottish friend?
I have a little bit of I would say that I've never actually eaten a Mountain House. So that's saying something. So I've only heard stories, like anecdotal experiences of Mountain House, and none of them have been good.
No.
So I actually got into this from a rafting trip. And so I had an experience where I was able to go on a 22-day rafting trip through the Grand Canyon. And I had already gotten really geeked on the paleo diet, had been a college athlete. And so I knew going into this trip, I wanted to eat healthy because I was the only female boat captain. I was 23 years old at the time, and I was scared shitless. And I was like, okay, if there's one thing I can do right, I can feed myself really well on this 20-some-odd day expedition.
That is a long trip.
It was awesome.
If you'd have done Mountain House, you'd have died.
Yeah. And that's the great part about rafting trips. You can bring whatever you want to, but I actually started dehydrating food, and I dehydrated about 50 pounds of food for this trip. And I ate super good for that entire, 3 weeks. And it was awesome. So that got me really geeked on dehydrating food. But then when I started doing more backcountry
But wait,
trips,
how come you did that instead of buying something over the counter?
Sure, because there really wasn't anything out there that was...
You're smarter than us.
Yeah. Nothing was gluten-free. Nothing was dairy-free. I didn't do beans at the time.
So you were already like hard into the paleo thing. And so you're like, look, this is where I'm at. I don't want to touch this other stuff. There's nothing there for me.
Yeah.
So you went for scratch.
Absolutely.
So, how did you do that? I mean, how do you?
What made you think you could do that?
No, I'm not being cheeky. I'm being. How did you do that? I mean, I couldn't do that. I mean, what do you?
Of course you could. So I bought a little 5-tray dehydrator. They're maybe $100 if you get a nice one. And just a lot of prepping food, cooking food, figuring out how to spread it on the dehydrator trays, what temperature do you dehydrate it at, how do you package it afterwards. It was a lot of testing things, a lot of stuff I screwed up.
Yeah.
A lot of jerky that was too dry or too moist, or there was other things that turned out really good. Like I made purple instant mashed potatoes that were pretty legit. So
I'm hungry.
I know. That sounds really good.
So yeah, it was a really fun project. And
okay.
Then when I was actually doing a lot more pack rafting trips where you have your boat and your backpack and not a lot of room for anything else, I remember going to Denali National Park for a 3-day trip, and they give you this bear canister that's, maybe the size of a bread box. And I was trying to stuff all my paleo food in there, and like salami and fruit and nuts, and I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I can't fit all of my food for a day into this bear canister, let alone 3 days.
And it's heavy.
So I got really geeked on dehydrating food at home for my pack rafting trips. So I did a 4-day trip in the Grand Canyon by myself, and I had dehydrated jerky and packaroons and some dinners like Mom's Paschetti, which is one of the Heather's Choice meals, dark chocolate chili, which is another one. And that was some of the original recipes that I had taken on this 4-day pack rafting trip. And now they're available at heatherschoice.com, and it's really taken off. People like it.
Heatherschoice.com. That's what I was going to ask you.
Are you keeping up with the volume?
Trying.
Because I remember early when I was looking at it, it was like, can you sustain the demand? Was the question.
That's what we've been working on for the last year. I actually partnered with 2 different kitchens. So we have one in Colorado that we work with and one back in Alaska. Because initially when I was doing it all by hand, there was no way that I could keep up. And I tried, but just couldn't do it single-handedly.
And you're from Alaska?
Mm-hmm.
Born and raised, right?
Yep. Home sweet home.
I did my homework.
Yeah. Your internet stalking.
Yes.
Well done, my friend.
Yeah, appropriate.
So, Heather's Choice ended up being a thing where, I was making the stuff for myself, and then other friends were going on pack rafting trips, and they also wanted a better food option, whether it's because they had dietary restrictions or they just wanted to eat better.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I handed out enough samples and got enough good feedback that I ended up starting a website in August of 2014. And it's just kind of been a real ride since then.
Yeah.
Really? You said dietary restrictions, right? Okay, I'm type 2 diabetic. So I can go to you, I can go to the site, I can go to you, and I can get food that's going to be good for me?
Absolutely. So all of the carbohydrates in our meals are typically things like yams, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, things like that. So they're going to be fairly low glycemic index, and that's really important for type 2 diabetics.
Yep.
What about grains? Do you use any grains?
We don't use any grains. We use buckwheat in our breakfast, but that's actually a pseudo grain.
Uh-huh.
And so all of the meals and snacks that we make are going to be no grains, no dairy, and no soy, no corn. And the reason why I've gone that way is because I've found that for myself, I feel a lot better when I eat that way. And then from all the clients that I've worked with my other business, nobody has come to me and said, you know what, Heather, I feel so much better when I eat gluten. So much better. Like, it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, right.
Right.
Like, I went down the Paleo road about 5 years ago and lost a bunch of weight. Like, maintaining healthy, strong, or good weight is really easy. It's effortless when I eat kind of this Paleo style.
What got you geeked on that?
Well, I had been going to CrossFit gym and just kind of working out in general. Not a gym, actually. My brother-in-law and I just did it in his yard. And we just looked at CrossFit.com, and we did all the open site WODs just at our house. And we would just, out in the rain, we'd be like doing our thrusters and dump them in the grass and, climb the rope he had hanging from a tree. And, we just did workouts outside like that. And then I started meeting some other people, and I was sore a lot, like really sore. I'm like 35 or so. I'm 41 now, and 36, something like that. And I was sore, and I'd play ball in the city league, basketball, and things would hurt. And I saw these old dudes that were going to the gym, and some of the CrossFit guys, and they were just, they could go, do the same workout, and the next day wake up and do the same one again. I was so inflamed. I was taking ibuprofen like it was
candy.
Like a vitamin, like every day, like daily dose. And my joints hurt all the time. I was swollen a lot. Knees would hurt, and it just seemed like I was just getting older. I thought, right? And I'm eating like really strict. Like I'm managing these calorie intake like really low, but it was this high sugar, low fat diet is really what it was. It was pretty high carbohydrate, low fat, kind of your typical like egg whites for breakfast, some yogurt and some oats and stuff like that. And I met this old guy that was like 60, and he could kick my butt in the gym. Like he would do it. I'd beat him at the gym, but I wouldn't beat him the next day. And I'd need 3 or 4 days to get and this is after a couple of years. I was like, soon I'll adapt. I never did. I just was sore all the time. I never could quite do, and he would be fine. And so I started, watching and paying more attention. And he's like, you need to try this Paleo thing. And he's like, or the Primal Blueprint was another book. So he's like, read that. So I read that, and I was like, it was eye-opening. And then from that day on, I switched. I cut out a lot of sugar, so my carbohydrate intake was down around less than 50 grams in a day, mostly all fruits and vegetables. And then it was lots of, lean meats and fats and stuff that I got from fish and animals I shot myself. And all of a sudden, I'm really strong and feel good, and my joint pain went away, and I felt like I was in my 20s again, and it's been perfect since. And I feel healthier and stronger now. I'm doing, just lift muscle ups and things like that I thought were out of the, just not part of my life anymore. I was getting too sore. Basketball, I was cutting down to like 1 day a week because I needed ample time to get, before I'd pull a muscle or something. But as soon as I switched to paleo, it was like I just have never gone back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Mark, you said you had the same sort of experience?
Yeah, well, after he found that out, that's when I did it, and that's when I started reading it when I went for my first time to go hunting.
Yeah, I remember I had been doing it for a while, and all I had brought with me was like paleo foods, and we had our own chickens, so I had all these chickens that weren't in the fridge, and Mark's like, these chicken eggs, and he's like, can you keep these like just on the counter? And we had I ate lots of eggs, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, they're right from the chicken, right?
Yep.
So you don't have to refrigerate them, and I'm explaining how that works.
Yams, the first time I ate yams.
Yep,
that sort of stuff.
Lots of yams and sweet potatoes. And
sweet potatoes, yeah.
And I have like all these vegetables and fruits and everything. And we're in my my trailer camping. It wasn't a backpack hunt. I drew a pretty cool tag in this one unit when we were hunting elk. Brownlee's in there, and I give him the book and a couple other things, and he's getting real interested in it, right? And so for 2 days he's like reading this book. Well, one night I'm going to bed, and about 20 minutes after I'm asleep, I hear smack against the wall, and I hear this, what did you say, like bloody hell or something? And I'm like, I just throw open the door, and I'm like, what? And he's like, licorice has, and I don't remember, like,
losing it.
Wheat.
Yeah.
One
corn
piece
syrup.
of bloody red licorice, and my whole thing's screwed.
Like, the amount of sugar for him and all that was like, it just, all of this stuff was mind-blowing. And from that day, he's like, I'm in it. And then Mark dropped
50 pounds.
Yeah, 50
eating
pounds.
Bacon and eggs in the morning.
Right.
Not eating toast. I'm eating bacon and eggs and everything like this. Never, because that's what worked. Never once was I freaking hungry. Never once was I hungry.
Right.
And I'm eating all this stuff, and
you don't
weight
feel like
fell off me.
And you don't feel like you're sacrificing because you're having sweet potatoes with asparagus and a giant ribeye steak, and then you're having bacon and eggs for breakfast with some fresh fruits and berries, and it's like all of a sudden you're just losing weight, but you're eating like rich, tasty foods. And that was the thing that he lost weight right off the bat, and people were like, what happened to you? What happened to you?
Are you sick?
And people wouldn't recognize him. They'd walk right, and then Mark would say hi to him, and they'd be like, who? Oh my gosh, you're Mark Brownlee.
Yeah, people I hadn't seen for like a month. that much time. All of a sudden they're going, what the hell? Yeah.
And then
that was brilliant.
And then shortly after that, after losing the weight and stuff, he just felt better and stronger than ever.
Yeah, much healthier. Got off half of the medications that they had me on. Yeah, They used to be lined up like this. Now it's only a couple of them.
I know, because that's the crazy is that people don't realize that type 2 diabetes is reversible.
Oh, yeah.
They just assume, I've got it, I'm screwed, this is my life forever.
That's the interesting thing, too, is people saw this change in Mark, and then they go up to Mark, and they'd be like, what'd you do? And Mark would tell them, and they'd be like, oh, well, if you did that, never mind. It's like...
Didn't exercise once.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, paleo. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. You're crazy. That kind of... And it's like, look, I'm eating good, and I lost the weight. There's something to this, and some people could see it, but it was discouraging how many people just kind of were like, what? You don't eat grains? Wait, you eat those many eggs? Bacon's not good for you.
You get to eat red meat every day.
Right.
Exactly.
They just don't get it, and it's unfortunate. So that's ours. So tell us, How did you do the paleo thing?
Well, in college, I followed like a very strict sort of athlete diet of 60% carbs and lower fat and moderate protein. And I was a collegiate rower for 4 years. And so we trained from 5 to 7 in the morning and then typically 90 minutes in the afternoon. So I was doing, anywhere from 16 to 24 hours of exercise every week. And so it made sense for me to be eating oatmeal and peanut butter and all this jazz. But I knew the whole time, like, there had to be a food system that made sense to me because everything else it didn't quite make sense to be hammering cups of oatmeal or bread or pasta.
And
it just didn't work.
Sports in general tend to lean heavily toward this high carbohydrate diet to fuel the body. And so, especially in colleges still right now, I mean, it's kind of norm.
Yeah, and that's what all your coaches will tell you, like eat more bagels, all of that. But I found that I got to this point where it'd be a 45-minute workout, and I'd have to stop and take a break and like eat a Cliff Bar. And I just didn't have any
Which
gas
tastes
in the
like
tank.
crap, by the way.
Right.
They taste like crap.
There's still a
You joked about it.
multi-billion-dollar
cardboard.
business.
You said bark.
Yeah, bark and
Tree bark.
Tree bark. Yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely. So I ended up finding The Paleo Diet for Athletes by Loren Cordain.
Yep.
And this was in a evolutionary medicine class that I was taking, and it was all of a sudden just spot on for me. It just made sense that all of our nutrition would be based in biology. Of like, we evolved this way, and this is how our hunter-gatherers ate, blah, blah, blah. And
It's pretty self-evident. Like,
it's awesome.
yeah.
So I actually read the Primal Blueprint, and I remember we raced at Nationals my senior year, and I knew that I didn't want to switch to paleo before our 6th consecutive national championships.
Yeah.
I didn't want to screw anything up. But as soon as we were done with that race, I was like, okay, I'm going paleo all the way, and I've never really looked back. Obviously, there's been plenty of leniency over the last 6 years.
Yeah.
But overwhelmingly, I'm totally that bacon and eggs girl, ribeye for dinner, chicken salad for lunch, and it's awesome.
It's healthier.
I'm pretty much ruined for sugar. Like sweet food,
Right. Didn't you notice that once you were on it for quite a while, then you'd go back and you'd taste something that you ate before that was sugary, and I mean, you're like, oh, bollocks. Oh, and how much sugar is in that,
It's like Las Vegas for your taste buds.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's what I noticed.
I sit there and I'm like, we were just talking about this on the way here, and every time like something really sweet is offered, like a pie or a piece of cake or whatever, I don't even see it as food anymore. It's just outside my. Now, if you take a bowl of chicken wings, I'm like, that is my candy.
Right.
You take like bacon wrapped avocado, I'm down. Like, that is my candy.
Yeah.
But you give me like a cake, and I'm like, that's not real food to me. It's something weird. No hunter-gatherer found that, right?
Right.
It just there's something to it, man. And it's weird how the body adapts. Now, it took a while to get off that old diet, but it's been years now. And so when I do eat, I just don't do sweet food anymore. It doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, you've really drank the Kool-Aid when you eat a carrot, and you're like, that's the sweetest carrot I've ever eaten.
Exactly.
It's got a lot of sugar in it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's cool to see for me looking back as a college athlete and having put in, like I say, sometimes 24 hours in a week of exercise where you asked me earlier, like, what do you do for exercise? And I'm like, I might work out like 45 minutes in a week.
Yeah, I saw you in the convention area, like in the hotel, and I was like, who's that jacked girl over there? Like, you got some guns, you got some shoulders. You're
push-ups, man.
You don't look like, you look like an athlete.
Well, that's the thing, though. If you eat you eat that way, you don't have to do this. When I lost that 50 pounds, okay, Heather, I didn't exercise one bloody time. I didn't do one bloody push-up. I didn't do anything. That's when I went, hey.
I tried to get him to, but.
Right. He's one thing at a time.
And I started yes. But that's just proof right there.
Yeah, it's.
Okay?
I
it's not
tell
like
people,
I ate
it's like,
meat and eggs and then I went and ran half a
right.
marathon.
It's like 80%. How you look is like 80% diet or maybe more. Like Mark Sisson says that 80% diet, 20% exercise. And I mean, I don't know, but it certainly I found that people ask me, they're like, do you, like, they kind of think I'm spending an hour, 3 hours, an hour in the gym every day or something. And it's like, no, I pretty much go like 15 minutes to half hour, like twice a week. And that's about what I get into the gym. Like my coaches and stuff, they can tell you, like, they're always going, are you going to come in this week? And otherwise I like hit the rower in the basement and do, a little barbell stuff, just 15, 20 minutes, and I'm back upstairs a couple days a week, and that's it. And yet I'm pretty strong, pretty decent fitness, and I attribute most of that to the fact that the way that I eat.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen that too, because after college, I got really geeked on CrossFit. And it was really cool to see that, your workouts don't have to take that long. I did a workout recently that took me 3 minutes flat, but I was gassed at the end of it.
Yes.
And being able to see that it's not taking a lot of time, your diet doesn't have to be based around deprivation.
Right.
You can eat really healthy, delicious food, or exercise in a way that's fun, and have your health all the way until you're as old as you want to be.
It sounds too good to be true, though.
So now, with what you're doing now, we can take that into the woods with us, right? So I don't have to give birth to twins in the woods, right? This is what this is about now, right? Oh,
yep.
Yeah, because
it's all coming together.
Because, looking for a backcountry meal of some kind there's just not a lot out there. And then we've kind of done our own. Like, we started making our own meals. We ordered a lot of freeze-dried foods that are already done, like some chicken and some, all the ingredients. And my sister made them for us this year, and they were like, it was like Thai peanut, and she had all this different. She just got online and found some, and it had all the ingredients in it that I kind of like, and it didn't have any preservatives or anything else, and it was pretty good. And then she ran out of chicken, freeze-dried chicken, so she ordered some from Mountain House because she was short on time. So she orders this patch from Mountain House, right, and she puts it in there, but we don't test it. We just think it's freeze-dried chicken. We get to the mountain. Dude, it was like someone had dumped an entire, 50 teaspoons of salt in it.
Yeah.
So it was pre-salted. I mean, to an extent that was like unreal. And so you already were adding enough seasoning and salt to this Thai peanut thing already that you added to it. But then we accidentally added the salted. But there's no way, I mean, the amount of salt in that chicken would have grossed me out even if I hadn't put salt in it on my own.
Right.
And it was bad. And that's kind of how Mountain House in general, those meals, we're kind of done with them. We're just out. That's why we packed our own this year. And I tried to pack some other types of foods, paleo type foods, so I wouldn't, have trouble using the men's room. The thing is,
it can ruin a hunt. Let me tell you.
It can ruin a lot of trips if you're either you got to go to the bathroom all the time, or you can't go. Either way.
Yeah, it's no fun. And so one of my questions to you is, what is the macronutrient profile in your foods, like a typical dinner?
Sure. So our smoked salmon chowder, which is my favorite meal, and it has smoked salmon, peas, carrots, potatoes, cayenne and dill, and white pepper, and also coconut milk powder for the fat.
Dude, it's like all real food. Did you hear that? It's like boom, boom, boom.
What I was thinking?
Where's the monosodium hydroglycine?
I can pronounce everything she just said. What Heather said, I knew everything she just said.
Yep, it's got 9 ingredients, and that one has 6 ounces of salmon in each bag. So when you dehydrate that down, it's only 1.5 ounces.
Woo!
Which is pretty sweet. So you lose 75% of the weight when you dehydrate stuff.
Which is important for us packing into them back in the mountain to try and get elk.
Yeah.
That's huge.
What happens to the omega-3 when you dehydrate it like that?
It's still preserved. So even though salmon is thought of as being a fattier protein, it's actually still fairly lean. So when we dehydrate that down, all of the omega-3s are preserved. All you're losing is water weight. And so in each bag, you're going to get about 40 grams of protein, and then I strive to get in about 50 to 60 grams of carbs in each recipe so that it's fairly balanced. And then the rest of the calories are going to come from fat, and I would like to hit somewhere between 500 and 600 calories per 4-ounce serving. So
I'm hungry. This is
tomorrow.
Because that's one of my complaints about a lot of the backcountry meals is the protein is
it's minimal.
It's like almost not even there. So we are always like supplementing to make sure. And I've noticed this in the backcountry when I'm up there it's not so bad when I would go for 7 to 10 days and I was done for the year or for the month. But in recent years, the last few years, I'll go backpack for 7 or 10 days, come back for a couple days, go for 7, 10 days, come back for a couple days, go for another bunch of weekends. And what I was finding there for a while was all these gains I'd pick up in the CrossFit gym and all this fitness that I had and all this muscle I'd have for carrying my pack and just performance would slowly disappear. And by the end of the month, I'd lost a ton of muscle because my body was just using it to repair tissue. And here I am at the end of this period, and it's like it took months to get back to where I was. And I was like, I need to stop abusing myself like that. It was just hard on me.
For sure.
I want food that takes care of me up there,
and
not just gets me by.
And protein's the hardest thing for you to get. I mean, you guys have probably seen that in all of your trips of, sure, I can get some fat here and I can get a ton of carbohydrates from all the food options out there. But over and over again, the thing you're missing is having enough protein. And if you want to be hitting close to a gram per pound of body weight, you really have to work at it. You need a protein-rich breakfast, you need protein-rich snacks, a protein-rich dinner, and then you have to stay on top of that stuff. And I don't know anybody that likes to drink whey protein in the backcountry. It sucks. So you need to bring jerky.
I do whey protein to get me there, but I also have done like for a while there, like I didn't do Mountain House meals anymore. I just brought the eggs, freeze-dried eggs, just mountains. They were Mountain House, but I'm like, I can digest these. These are just eggs. There's like nothing else in there, and it's got the protein and some fats, and so I just started doing eggs.
Yeah.
Even Mountain House couldn't bugger up eggs.
Well, it's still got a lot of salt and other crap in it. But
I'm so excited
it's not
to
bad.
try your stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So that's what I'm striving for, is to have these protein-rich but still nutritionally balanced meals so that people don't have to go through all the hoops and jumps that the rest of us have to figure out, like, what the hell am I going to eat on my next trip?
How does it taste?
Well, obviously I'm a little biased. I think it tastes awesome, but once again, all of the recipes are things that I would have made at home. So the dark chocolate chili, if I was a guest at your house, I would make
chocolate chili? Okay, like run that by me because that sounds really tasty. You just combined two awesome things.
It's pretty good. So there's cocoa powder, espresso powder, some sea salt. The first thing we started off with is 100% grass-fed bison. And then your tomato paste and your sweet potatoes and onions go in there. So it's literally just a meaty chili with some sweet potatoes for carbs. And we make it this great big batch in a big old pressure cooker and then spread that thin on dehydrator trays.
Yep.
So the great part about Heather's Choice is that when you rehydrate these meals, it tastes just like it did when it came off the stove.
Right.
Whereas, like you're telling your sister that she'll take chicken and curry powder and broccoli and put it in a bag, and that can totally work. But the reason we do it this way is because all those flavors get melded together when you're cooking it together.
Yep.
So when you rehydrate it, it tastes like a comprehensive meal rather than just individual ingredients put in a bag together.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier for somebody who's on the side of a bloody mountain at 6,500 feet to have that all together and tasting just right.
What happens, too, though, is like what we find is when it tastes like crap, it's like you're forcing yourself to eat it because you know you need the calories. But you really just are done with it. Like you're like, I can remember sitting there eating this Mountain House sweet and sour chicken and just being like, just chewing it through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just putting the bag down, like, but not wanting any of it.
I had a meal like that on a recent pack rafting trip where I was actually out of my own damn food. And so I had to go buy a different brand. And there was so many carbohydrates. I think it was 120 grams of carbs in this bag. So it was just mostly rice. And I couldn't physically eat it all, but I didn't want to carry the there with me. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to eat this whole bag of rice. So otherwise it's just going to be in my backpack spilling everywhere for the next 3 days.
We need to get some of her stuff, and we need to cook it, try it, and then and tell everybody about it.
So, what I've asked some people who have had it and they loved it. It's not cheap though. No. So tell us about that.
All right, so I'll tell you a little thing about making food. When I started, I looked at it and was like, oh, if I could put $6 worth of ingredients into every bag and my time's not worth anything, then I can sell it for $12 a bag.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how I started the business. But then very quickly I figured out, there's packaging costs, there's labor costs, there's sourcing, there's shipping. And so it's gotten our meals up to $15 a bag, and I make about $2.50 a bag right now. So my profit margin is
huge
super
margins.
Yeah.
All the people who call me are
that's like negative X.
Yeah. They want to call and say, do you wholesale? And I do some wholesaling, but our profit margins just suck at this point because things like grass-fed bison, they are charging me $9 a pound. Same thing for salmon. It's pretty expensive. So what's going to happen for Heather's Choice is the more product we make, the more product we can buy as far as ingredients goes.
Right.
And things like packaging. I've spent $2 on each bag, whereas if I was to buy 75,000 bags, I could get them for 20 cents.
Right. Yeah.
So as our profit margins improve, that's going to give us some leverage for regulating our price point. But at this point, it costs what it costs because it's so damn expensive to produce. And get this, the breakover point for getting a discount on your proteins, you got to buy 20,000 pounds of protein at a time. So if you want to buy a whole herd of cattle for Heather's Choice, you can really help us.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that crazy?
That's mental.
That's wild.
Mental.
And you could go, as you've sourced your protein sources, you could always use TVP, right?
Oh my God.
Right?
Right. We could just go totally vegetarian with all of this and throw it to the wind.
What is it?
Textured vegetable protein.
Right. What the chuck is that?
Yeah.
What is it?
I don't know.
Soybean, right? Or
it's got to be
corn
soy and whatever else.
Anyway, I just say it jokingly because I have found that, because $15 a bag gets pretty expensive if a guy's going into the backcountry and he does a 7-day trip, it adds up. I look at it though, I've decided a long time ago at my own home that we're going to eat how we're going to eat. And I think it's kind of a myth to think that paleo eating is really expensive. I think it's really inexpensive because vegetables and fruits at our local fruit stand in the local economy where we live, it's not expensive at all. I can buy mountains of fruits and vegetables for $30, $35. We go once a week, fill that shopping cart up with what I consider actual real food, and I might spend $100, $150 in vegetables and fruits for the month, maybe. That's a lot. And then we usually buy a pig because I like pork.
That's a good way to go.
Bacon is really good, so we buy a pig from a farmer, and that usually runs us about $400, but lasts most of the year.
But what is it, $4 a pound if you buy the whole thing?
Oh yeah. And then
awesome.
It's a lot cheaper to buy it from a farmer and then get it butchered. And then we go, and then I try to kill an elk, a couple of deer, and some fishing and duck, whatever. I try to, an elk will feed my whole family almost for the whole year. And so getting some wild protein like that, I'm not going to say that elk, if you took in the cost of my hunting equipment, my time off from work, and there's that, it's probably,
not kid ourselves.
It's probably about $4,000 a pound. But if you consider that a sunk cost, then it's just the cost of getting into the mountain now. But I would do that anyway because of the whole overall experience, And in certain locales, it's different if you're hunting whitetail and you have access and they're just like rabbits. You're not spending a lot of money Like, what's the cost of a bullet, right? So, but still, you can source your own protein. But even there was one year where I didn't kill an elk. I mean, I know it's hard to believe, but recently, and I had to buy a cow instead. And that wasn't bad either. It just cost me, I think it was like $1,000.
Yeah, and it's an upfront cost, but like you say, you eat off of it for the whole year.
But the whole year, and you average that out, it was like $100 a month in meat. And so you're looking at, like, between the veggies and the meat source, $300 a month to feed your family. Like,
yeah, if you save your bacon grease and like buy yourself some butter,
yeah, I
you're
mean,
gonna be good to go.
You buy some other incidentals, but it's not true that it's expensive. What happens is people go, I'm going to go paleo. And then they go out there and they actually buy all these things that say paleo and gluten-free on them, and they try to make pizza. And they try to make
almond flour, almond butter.
Yeah, all this weird like stuff that no hunter-gatherer ever ate. They start buying stuff that has labels on it and making these like your traditional meals like we eat today, but with paleo ingredients. Well, that gets real expensive real fast. But if you just eat real food like vegetables and meat, it's not that bad. But when you start to have to dehydrate it and package it, I think what people disconnect in their mind is they're like, well, why can't Heather do it cheaper? Well, cheaper than who? Because if you look at Mountain House, that's not real food.
Yeah, but when you
there's a reason why it's $6 a bag.
Right. Well, you package shite. It's cheaper. What you talked about? Come on, that's real bloody food. So of course it's going to be more money. You got to pay for it, and that's it.
And I think that's something that people don't necessarily realize is how much effort goes into manufacturing food, which I didn't know when I started a year and a half ago, because you need to source everything. So that's a lot of getting on the phone, ordering everything, paying for the shipping to get it to you. And then you need to cut everything up into the right sizes. So a lot of prep time.
Yeah.
Cooking it. Dehydrating stuff can take 12 to 24 hours depending on the humidity.
Yeah, that's a ton of work.
And then you got to pack it and label it and then get it out.
Right.
Well, you're like, we just had Randy Newberg on the podcast, and we basically validated or determined that he's insane. And so we're just doing the same for you right now.
Yeah, that I'm just doing this
Only
for
a
shits
crazy
and giggles.
person would do what you're doing.
Right.
But the truth is, though, I've asked for a long time, like, how come there aren't more, we all, like all those kayakers, backpackers, REI, types, all those backcountry hunters all over the world, all these people, right? They know Mountain House sucks. Someone's got to, like, look at it and go, you know what? We can outdo that. We can come up with a better food source, and yet people aren't. And it's because, sadly, I think the market's not willing to pay for it, at least in the past. But now with a little more education and a little more knowledge, I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, well,
it's
my
worth the
hunting
$15.
My hunting trip costs X dollars. So it's just sort of like this kind of backcountry meal thing kind of gets built into that X dollars thing. And I might, instead of, spending some money on, let's say, a new backpack, heaven forbid, Kafaru, I'm sorry, I said it out loud. But if we said, I'm not going to buy a new backpack because the one I have works pretty good, I might buy food this time. This, you just rearrange and prioritize. For me, my health and wellness, my fitness matters more than all the rest. And so it's an easy decision for me to invest in that kind of food, that kind of, for my, but it gets like, let's say I'm going to buy it for my daughter and me and my wife. It's adding up quick.
Yeah, and thankfully, your daughter and your wife would be able to split one of these meals because they're so hearty.
Oh, yeah.
But I see that a lot, too, with people, especially where we are in Alaska. If you want to go out for lunch even, you're not going to go out for lunch for less than $20 or $25. If you want, like, a 6-ounce portion of protein, you want some good vegetables, some good fats. And so it's going to cost you that much if you're in a restaurant. And so it's always funny to me that people are like, I won't spend $15 for a gourmet meal in a bag.
Right, yeah.
It's like, okay, like if you're not willing to spend the
Well,
money on grass-fed, then fine.
It's interesting because I work in downtown Portland, and when I'm down there, there's all these restaurants around, right? And you go into a restaurant, and you're right. If you want a meal that has a sizable amount of protein in it, it's going to cost you $12, $15.
Easy.
There's a bunch of easy. And then that's not at a nice place. That's
right.
just,
That's like Whole Foods.
And even then, it's And even then, it's a pretty. There's just a few places that can do that for you. If you go down to like I have a lot of friends that are like, dude, for $7 you can get this, and I'm like, there's like 5 grams of protein in that.
Right.
There's nothing in that. There's no meat in that. Oh, but it's a whole giant meal of bread. Look, dude, that's not what I'm looking for. So there's a lot of choices. Like I go downtown, they're like, let's go get some lunch. And it's like, when people want to not spend money, they go to a place where they just don't offer meat.
I know.
Basically.
And I feel like that's the thing, too, whether you're hunting it yourself or you're buying it, like it's not cheap. Because like you said, even going on these hunting trips, it's not free.
Yeah.
Like we went on a trip this last fall for deer in Alaska, and by the time we paid for getting a boat out to this island and then ammo and then all the food we brought and the beer and like whatever else we brought on the trip, it probably cost us $20 a pound for venison, and we got like 20 pounds out of it once we split it between everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the experience of that trip was so awesome that you wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Right.
What about grass-fed? Like you're sourcing you're using grass-fed meats.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about not doing that? And what is your reason for it? Like,
that's
explain
a great
it.
question.
Because there's going to be some people that are like, why does it matter if it's grass-fed or not?
Yeah. So without being here for the next 5 hours, cows, like let's talk about beef as like our good example.
Yeah.
If cows were made to eat grass, and they're ruminant animals that have multiple, parts of their digestive system that are going to take in that grass and regurgitate it and use that for fuel, they get really sick when you feed them things like corn and soy or any of the other subsidized crops that they're typically fed in a conventionally raised system.
Yeah.
And then you run into a lot of problems when you take these animals and put them into small confinement where they're all together and they're all peeing and pooping in the same small space. And they're being fed the same crappy food, and it's not a really good life for a cow. Whereas if you were to go to, say, Corner Post Meats, which are some good friends of mine in Colorado, you go and meet their cows, and they're just kicking it on like hundreds of acres, just eating grass, doing their thing, loving life. And it's like, whoa, the life of that critter actually looks pretty awesome. And it's a healthy animal that doesn't require a lot of hormones and antibiotics. And so while there would be a serious profit margin increase for sourcing non-grass-fed proteins like grass or like conventionally raised beef or chicken or pork, I wouldn't do it because that's not why I got into this business. So it's going to be interesting to see, because as the business grows, I'm sure there'll be a huge demand of people saying, I want to buy your stuff, but I want it for cheaper. If we want to get it into REI, you need to sell it to us for $6 a bag.
Right.
But then...
And we won't do it.
No.
Well,
then that's not your stuff then, is it? Then you might as well sell them a bag of Mountain House.
And I'm going to, when I look at this and I also think about it from the health standpoint too. So, with grass-fed animals, do you have any reasons there, or?
Yeah, it's pretty multifaceted. So there's one part of it of, are we doing well by the critters that we are harvesting?
If we're going to farm them and raise them. And the thing is, though, like in the United States, it's a crime what is done in big agriculture or big farming like that. It's, like you said, they're wallowing in their own
shite.
Yeah.
No, I've got.
What do you say with an accent or something?
Yeah, right.
Well, I've got a 21-year-old son who's a vegetarian, and he's a vegetarian because of the way the animals are treated like that.
Yeah, for good
but
reason.
He is going to eat the elk that I bring home.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, and that makes total sense to me. So you have the the animal well-being part of it, which is a really big piece. But then as far as the nutritional part of it, just like you were talking about before with having like achy joints and being sore and just feeling really inflamed.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when you're eating the meat from an animal, let's say a cow that's been eating corn and soy, these really pro-inflammatory foods. All of the fats in there are going to be primarily omega-6s, which are very pro-inflammatory. And in our bodies, we need a balance of omega-3s and omega-6s. You don't want like a completely omega-6 free diet, and you don't want to be hammering fish oil like it's your job. You want a balance.
Right.
And so in order to achieve that balance, typically for us as people who go out to eat or don't have perfect diets, we need to be really focusing on upping our intake of these omega-3 rich foods like pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught fish, grass-fed proteins. And so when you're buying, let's say, grass-fed bison, what you're actually doing is buying yourself almost a little bit of fish oil because you're getting some omega-3s from those fats.
Absolutely.
And like you said earlier, at 35 years old, you maybe weren't getting away with the nutrition that you were in your 20s. And I hear that over and over and over again from our customers saying, you know, like at some point I started to get achy and I felt lethargic. But then when I started paying attention to the quality of fats I was eating, I felt a lot better.
Funny, just eating right.
When I'm trying to get someone, you know, to switch and really try this sort of paleo primal way of eating, caveman eating, whatever you want to call it. When I sort of push that, I usually, you know, the grass-fed part is my last like battle to have with them, right? It's everything leading up to that. And if I can just get them to eat just meat and vegetables, we're getting there.
Yeah,
right?
You're getting a lot closer.
But as they get further along, at some point, getting a source of meat that is grass-fed, and that can be a wild-caught anything, like deer, elk, you know, whatever, fish, versus or a farm-raised animal that's, you know, grass-fed. You know, getting them onto that's that final step. And the whole point of that for me is, like you said, is to limit that omega-6 intake that's pro-inflammatory and get the natural amount of omega-3 that I would normally consume. And that comes from the fat that comes with that. And so when you get, I'm sure you could get a lot cheaper salmon if you got farmed salmon, which is really grain-fed salmon.
I know,
right?
Isn't that crazy?
It's just crazy, but it's grain-fed salmon. So
there's lots of grain growing in the ocean.
Exactly.
And along with pink dye and whatever else they've got to put in there.
And so,
bloody hell.
And so they feed the salmon, you know, and you could get that and you could put it in there, but it wouldn't be much different than me just taking spoonfuls of vegetable oil and cranking that down. And
which, in case anybody doesn't know, that's not a good idea.
It's not good.
In case you were wondering.
In case you're wondering.
A little health warning by Heather.
And so it's just pro-inflammatory, and we get, I think, enough omega-6 just without even trying. So if you can do that, you know, so you source your salmon from a quality source. One thing that I think in my mind is, and this is just my economical mind, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy Heather's Choice for X period of like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So if I take in a little bit of omega-3 or 6 during that period, like with a farm caught salmon, I wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't crush me, right? But if I'm going to eat this thing like kind of all the time throughout the year, then I don't want to do that.
Absolutely. You know? And yeah, I would just encourage people to kind of think about how, once again, you can spend very little money on food, but if it translates to health problems down the road, it's
cost.
Really,
yeah, I've thought about that too. It's like,
but don't get me going on the cost of
well,
health.
not only that, it's like, and you get into this whole thing on quality of life too. Like you can like, I know people who have some stomach problems, right? Like they can't have a bowel movement without their daily laxative, right? And that's just life for them. They're, 35, 40, and they're like, I can't poop without laxative daily, right? And they just sort of can live another 20 years probably, 30 years, 40 years like that. It's not, but you're not going to be, you're bloated and gassy like all the time and either constipated or diarrhea or whatever it is all the time on this diet that you can get by on.
Right.
But I look at it like you talk about, look at the future health costs. Well, there is that, but there's just the whole every day, and that's the same on the mountain.
Right.
When we're up there on the mountain, I want to be able to feel great. I don't want to sit in the tent with Anthony while he's farting all night long because
I'm not Anthony.
Shelter because he's had like beef stroganoff mountain house, which that stuff kills you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, I hope that with what you're doing, that people support it just for that. Just so that option is on the market. If you're somebody who's like, nope, it's not I don't value that, and I'm out, that's fine. But I hope there's enough of a community out there that does get involved into this to support this kind of food and this kind of meal in the backcountry because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun for me to imagine that I could take it from a marketing stance and be like the only paleo backpacking food and just like go after the paleo market and probably own it. Or it'd be really easy to just focus on like organic foods and be like, oh, it's all organic and da-da-da. But there's a component to it for me of like, wow, what would be a really cool thing to leave behind? And that's why I keep thinking about bringing the whole food line and all of our production back to Alaska. Because in Alaska, yeah, you can go hunt and you can go fish, but if you're somebody who doesn't do those things, you have a hell of a time having access to really good, healthy food. Because there's not a lot of grass-fed beef. There's not a lot of poultry raised up there. So if we were able to go to these areas and find the people that are producing the really good, high-quality food, like the folks we get our salmon from, and kind of bring their business up a little bit and support their lifestyle and what they want to do.
Right.
That for me is really exciting to see that it's not simply about like us getting to eat good in the backcountry. It's the trickle-down effect of that of, wow, if I go take $30,000 this summer and go buy salmon from my friends down in Ninilchik, like what's that going to do for their business and their quality of life?
Absolutely. What would you say is the most difficult part of promoting Heather's Choice? Is it the price of the meals? Is it the concept of paleo meals? Which has been harder to convince the consumer to go after?
Yeah, like I say, I don't feel like I've wanted to put the paleo sticker or the paleo marketing around it so much because it does scare people off.
Well, and I think the paleo marketing has now been stolen by
saturated.
Like everything has paleo on it, and it's like, where did that come from? That's not.
Yeah, paleo Nutella. You're
like,
right.
What? Totally.
So I don't.
Paleo Nutella?
It's lost some meaning. It's lost some meaning. That word's lost some meaning.
So paleo and primal, I feel like those two dietary terms just scare people away. So that hasn't been my emphasis. I think the sticker tag, like all day today being at the event, people would be so psyched. Like, this sounds awesome. This sounds really good. Oh my gosh, you use grass-fed bison. That's so cool. Oh, you make this by hand. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's $15 a bag. And I'm like, yeah. So I feel like the sticker price really gets people. But then I have folks who will spend it over and over and over again and who will buy it in bulk because they understand the value of it.
Well, I think about that. And so let's say back on that subject. So I'm just thinking, right? So
waving our hands, getting excited.
That's right. So, okay. So if you have, can you make sure that camera's on? Because Brent, I haven't seen Brent take a look at it for like the last half hour.
Brent, is that camera going?
Okay, so
sorry, I didn't mean to yell in your ear.
Sorry, he's all right. So
he's
you get your. I was about to make fun of you, but I pulled back. Brother.
Thank you.
I thought that's what he was here for.
All right, back to the topic. So you have this food, and I'm just thinking incremental cost, right? So it's $15 for Heather's Choice. I'm going hunting for 7 days. Okay, Mountain House is what? What's the competitor cost?
Let's say $8.
$8.
Yeah,
it sounds about right.
Average, yeah.
$8. Okay, $8 You're going to buy 7 bags. That's, what's the math, Heather?
56.
56.
Fuck, I'm sitting here doing this. Don't ask me.
I'm going 7 cents 49. I got that part. No secret. Math is not my forte. Okay, 56. Now, Heather's choice is an additional. I was going to spend $56 anyway, is my whole point, right? I'm buying the Mountain House. I'd spend $56. So I don't think of the cost of Heather's choice, this is my way of thinking, as the full amount. It's the incremental cost above the Mountain House, because I was going to spend that anyway.
What is it?
The Mountain House, so what? Heather's choice would be another
$49.
$49, right? $50.
See, no, that's not. See, that's
so instead of it going, man, it's going to cost
such
me
a bad thing. Then
it's going to cost me $100 for this backpack food that I'm going to take. I just can't afford it. Really, it's incremental because you're spending that $50 anyway on the Mountain House, which is garbage and is going to kill you. And so, for $50 more, you just score big.
Right?
Is it worth that $50? Is a real question because you were going to spend that other anyway.
I would pay $49 more so I don't have to give birth in the woods.
And like you say, for some people that isn't worth it, and that's totally fine because I know that there's going to be plenty of people who are going to tell me, like, this sucks or I won't pay for it or whatever. And once again, that's fine because, like the 3 of us know, not everybody's going to eat paleo, and not everybody's going to raise their own chickens and grow their own vegetables and go hunt for their own food. So that's fine. Just the people who do appreciate it, those people make it worthwhile. Because if somebody comes back from a trip and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to tell you all about this epic trip I went on, and there I was, and I was eating Heather's Choice, like in my bivvy bag, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the stuff that makes it fun for me.
You get that then.
So tell me, now let's go shopping, Mark. Okay, so the salmon one the salmon one was really good, right? You called it the salmon.
Smoked salmon chowder.
Smoked salmon chowder. Okay. And then what's another good one that's like a favorite of yours?
What else? Most recent one that we released is the Ethiopian Dorawat, which is like a thick red North African curry.
Ethiopian
Dorawat. Which, if you ever want to make this meal at home, it's awesome. It starts with 2 cups of paprika. And then you build off of that with onions and ginger and lots of cayenne and salt and pepper, and then you actually make this really thick red curry, and you add vegetable stock to that to make it almost soupy. And then what you would traditionally do is actually put whole leg quarters in there, so like chicken legs or drumsticks, whatever.
Yep.
And then let those cook off the bone, and then once it's all simmered down,
strain it.
You leave that curry in there, and then you add hard-boiled eggs. And it's really good, and you would usually eat it with
what happens to
bread.
The bone?
Pull the bones out. For our meal, we start with quail
Does it
trimmings.
have bone stock in it then from the way you cook it?
We use vegetable stock.
Okay.
Yeah. I would like to use more bone broth in the recipes, though. As soon as we get this USDA inspection, we can do that.
Really?
Yeah. So the Ethiopian Dorawat is awesome. I really like that meal because, once again, it's something I would make for a dinner party.
Yeah.
And then we also have a chipotle cherry chili that's really good. So it's got Bing cherries in it and lots of carrots and onions and tomatoes.
That sounds pretty good.
I know.
It's legit. The dark chocolate chili is awesome.
That's what I was going to say is the dark chocolate chili doesn't have beans?
Nope. None of our chilies have beans because they fall in line with that whole primal thing.
That is so epic because I'll tell you what, beans are evil. They're just flat out evil.
Especially in a little tent.
Yeah.
Chili Mac is not friendly to your friends in the tent.
No.
I don't. In a tiny little tent with your mate.
So I do that whole Mark Sisson's cookbook, the Primal Blueprint cookbook. He's got that primal chili.
Yeah.
And it's like you take like a whole
meat and tomato paste.
You take like this whole package of bacon and you cook the bacon. And then you put the bacon and the bacon grease in the crock pot. So it's just a pile of greasy bacon.
Delicious bacon.
And then you put like a bunch of bison in it. And then some other stuff and little tomato. And it's like...
little tomato.
I'm like, I can eat like... I mean, mostly I go easy on the tomato, but I mean, it's mostly meat and bacon fat.
It's good.
When my wife first made it, I ate a whole pile of it, and then if it sits at room temperature too long, it turns into how bacon turns solid. You got to warm it up so the fat gets loose again. Yeah. It's money though. That stuff's really good. I like that. But one thing I like about I'm just not a beans just shouldn't be consumed by human beings. That's just
they're hard on you.
They're great. If you're gonna put them in food storage, that's brilliant. They'll last forever. And when the bomb drops, and it's there's zombies out, you have beans. That's what they're. That's
You'll
what
eat lentil soup for eternity.
That's what they're for. For when we get nuked. For the zombies coming, they're not there for daily use. That's Brian Call 101. Okay,
yeah.
But for real, that's exciting that you don't have that in there. So what about breakfast kind of meals?
Yeah. So what I would really like to release is a corn to beef hash. That would be awesome. And I think that I'm pretty dang close to perfecting that recipe.
Yeah.
But right now we have a buckwheat breakfast, and buckwheat is actually a pseudo grain. So people are always like, oh my gosh, that sounds like buckwheat pancakes, or it sounds like wheat. But it's actually a really nutrient-dense pseudo grain. So it's more like a nut or a seed. And so we combine buckwheat and hemp and chia seeds and coconut and a bunch of fruit and spices and make a hot cereal that's gluten and dairy free. And like I said, I used to eat oatmeal like it was my job in college, so it kind of hits the spot for me. But if we could put together a shredded beef hash of some sort in a bag, that's going to be a real winner. We get a lot of people who take the tomatillo rancheros that we make, and they will eat that for breakfast because it has venison and this awesome green chili sauce that we make from scratch, and it's pretty legit.
What about... I'm hungry. What about...
Right. Can we go have Mexican food?
For real. What about, eggs? Anything with eggs? Because I love eggs, man.
I do, too, and I have not figured out how to dehydrate eggs. I've done it a couple times, and it's not like freeze-drying where you turn them into a powder.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So why not freeze-dry?
Ooh, good question. Freeze-drying equipment's wicked expensive.
Yeah.
You would have to invest probably millions of dollars to get some good size freeze-drying equipment. But the reason I really like dehydrating food is because that's how I got into it, and it's very approachable. And that's what I find for a lot of folks is they'll say, either they eat Mountain House or they dehydrate their own. And so I honestly think everybody should own a food dehydrator because you can take, say, leftover chili, spread it on your dehydrator trays, and keep it and use it for your hunts later in the year. And there's other benefits to dehydrating food, such as it's way less energy intensive than freeze drying.
Yeah.
So that's another big part of it for us is, wow, if we were to build a kitchen, it could be wind and solar powered.
Now, isn't it true, though, that like dehydrated food doesn't keep its nutrients as long as freeze-dried food? Is that how it goes?
It won't be preserved as long. It's not going to last 25 years.
Which may not really matter.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Hopefully we're not stocking up
fine,
for 25 years
fine.
from now.
Just make fun of me. No. So for real, though, how long it does it? So it takes quite a while then for the nutrition to be lost in a dehydrated food.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about raisins, you could have raisins sitting on your shelf for...
True.
You probably have had raisins sitting on your shelf for a long time. So it's still going to last years. And I love it if people buy this stuff and eat it within a season or two. However, if they were to buy it and keep it...
Somebody was about to club me.
That's Brent messing with the microphone.
Careful. So I definitely think you could keep it for at least 2 years, but some shelf stability testing for us will actually say, hey, the food's going to last for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the other great part about dehydrated food, though, is that it's a little bit smaller. So people are going to notice that our packaging is about
I was going to say, your packages look small.
They're tiny, right? And so people look at it and they're like, I'm not paying $15 for this tiny ass
bag
of food.
I was just going to say, that was one of my questions was it doesn't look like, you said the calories and the macronutrient levels and stuff, but it doesn't look like that in the bag because you're used to a Mountain House that's like yay big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I consciously made an effort to get the smallest packaging that I could. So we have new bags coming out in May and they're about 6.5 inches tall by 6 inches wide. So your typical mountain house is probably an 8.5 by 11. So these really tiny bags, you can still add a cup of water to them, and you still have a whole hearty meal, more in a bowl-shaped bag.
Yeah.
And the reason that was so important to me is because I knew if I'm throwing a freaking pack raft in my bag and my dry suit and my life jacket.
Like my mountain house meals take up too much room.
Yeah.
They have those one packages like
Pro packs.
Yeah, that go down. But so tell me, so how many calories are in your meals?
For dinners, we shoot for 600, so in the range of 500 to 600. The breakfasts are also about 500 calories.
Okay.
And then we make our coconut packaroons, which are little coconut cookies.
Yep.
And those have 380 calories per package.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I remember early on when I was getting into lightweight backpacking, somebody was like, if you can hit 150 calories an ounce, you're in business. And so that's always been my goal.
So are those mostly from fat? Those calories are from fat? So those, what do you call them?
Packaroons.
Packaroons.
That's trademarked now, actually.
Okay. Don't steal it, Mark. Packaroons. So do those packaroons, do they, so how much do those cost?
$5 for 2 of them. So it'll be 380 calories for $5. And it's mostly coconut because we do shredded coconut, coconut butter, some maple syrup and spices, and then depending on the flavor, cocoa powder.
Mm-hmm.
But they're basically going to be, 20 grams of fat that you can take down. And the great thing about those is that they stay with you for a long time. If you eat a pack of packaroons, it's going to be a couple hours before you get hungry again.
So, I'm like usually trying to get like 3,000 calories when I'm hiking heavy, 3,000, sometimes a little more per day. Like, I've tried to like do it on less, and I wonder if your food quality is better. Do you need as many calories, or is calories? What?
That's a good question. So let's say, for example, if I was to give you a bag of potato chips and it has, 800 calories in it?
Yeah.
Okay, you could put that down pretty quickly and then be like, all right, I'm ready for my next meal. But if I was to give you 800 calories of ribeye, that'd be a pretty big-ass steak. It'd probably be, like a pound of protein that you'd be putting down, and you'd probably push that plate away and be like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think that's a really big factor in this is just how the different macronutrients influence your satiety.
Because I was going to say, when I eat Mountain House, a lot of times, I'll eat 2 meals, 2 dinners. Like theirs are about, are they about 500 calories?
It depends on which one. And that's the tricky part with that stuff because they'll say, 2 servings a bag, but they're 2 300-calorie servings, which is what we call 1 serving.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what I wonder. What's the total bag really? Because they say it's 2 servings when really it's just 1.
I would say it's 1 realistic serving.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's tough. So I think that 3,000 calories is still realistic, and that's my ultimate goal with Heather's Choice is to be able to hand somebody a gallon-sized Ziploc-sized bag that has all their calories they need for a day. Their breakfast, their snacks, their dinner, their dessert. I just have to not release 5,000 products at once.
Yeah.
I have to stair-step it. But even if you were doing 3,000 high-quality calories, you're likely to have better energy throughout the day, not dealing with as many carb crashes, not dealing with that incessant hunger that just doesn't go away when you're on the trail.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I'm excited to try this.
I am too.
All right. So again, how does the people who are watching this? How do they get it?
HeathersChoice.com. That's the easiest way, and we are working our way into more retailers, which is awesome. And there's some great websites that are picking up our product as well. And anybody who's interested in wholesale accounts, we totally do that. They just have to be forewarned that our profit margins aren't great yet. But things are only going to get better for Heather's Choice. We're going to be able to produce our products for cheaper as we increase our volume.
Yep.
And we're going to have new bags, which is going to really cut down on our costs. And like I say, I'm just always going to be working on recipes and releasing new products as we go here.
I'm excited.
No,
man.
it just sounds awesome.
Yeah, I want to. I'm definitely on board. I'm getting some. I'm In fact, you're here tomorrow, right?
Yeah, you're going to be.
So,
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, like I say, this
we're gonna
event
try
has
a
been
few.
so
You
fun.
got enough. You didn't sell out or anything, right? So we're gonna have a little Heather's Choice
Gritty Bowman
taste test.
Taste test.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Poop test too. Really. Right? And
That's what everybody really wants to
we'll
know.
report back to the fans how well it passes through the system.
Mark, could crap. I could crap. It's bona fide stuff.
That's right.
No, it's when you say the ingredients and stuff in it in the beginning, I just went, that's it.
Yeah.
Right there. I mean,
yeah. No, I think
it's like having your bloody kitchen with you.
Right.
On the side of the mountain.
It's such a cool thing to promote too, because it's not just a discussion about, how to, take food into the backcountry, but it's a discussion about health and wellness and life. It's the whole package, and it's really, I think, in line with hunting as well, because, hunting is, you're right there kind of sourcing your own food and trying to get stuff that's, good for you and natural, and why not take that in the backcountry too?
I know. I think that's always been interesting to kind of see that disparity where it's like, wow, we really care about the food that we're going out and going after and
but
getting
we're gonna
ourselves.
Eat poison for about 7-10 days.
But I give no about what I actually eat while I'm doing it.
That's right. Yeah.
And to each his own.
Like I said, I used to be like that a lot, where I was like, it doesn't matter, just the cheapest, whatever I got. I just need calories.
Yeah, but we didn't have a choice though, right? But now we got Heather's choice.
Well, I think we always had a choice, but
What, was that bloody,
I saw what you did.
That was
I was a little slow.
Really
Mountain House, so they got that other one there you can get at the bloody REI or whatever. That was it.
Backpackers Pantry.
Yeah, same freaking stuff though, isn't it?
It's pretty dang similar.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But now it's like, like I said, eating that way takes its toll on me in so many ways. It's just not worth it anymore. And I think when you're eating McDonald's all the time, and you're kind of drinking soda, and you just kind of, you don't know it. That's your norm. You kind of feel like crap just all the time, but you don't know you feel like crap. And when you kind of detox your body and you get away from those things and you just eat like really clean and healthy, when I am subjected to those foods, I just feel like crap in a way I didn't
feel it on every cell of your body.
Absolutely. And so I think, it's like if I walk in and I eat some kind of fast food meal, which I haven't done in probably, I think the last time we did it was like a couple years ago. I ate at Wendy's, and I remember coming. It was after we'd been in the mountains for like 10 days, and I was starving to death, and it was like 24-hour Wendy's, and me and him go in there, and I'm like, I haven't eaten at fast food place in like 2 years, and he's like, yeah. And so we get this Wendy's meal. We go sit at the table. I eat about 3 bites of it, and I'm like, I can't eat it.
Yeah,
I'm starving to death, but I would rather go hungry. And and then I haven't gone back again. So it's a big deal to me.
Yep.
So keep on cranking.
Yeah, once you eat good food, I think that's another part of it too. Like you guys know from doing your own hunting trips and tasting the elk that you've gone out and chased after, it ends up being the same thing even with beef and chicken. Once you've had good chicken, it's really hard to have conventionally raised chicken.
Well, and I think, like we did a few podcasts, and we have one called 200 Days in the Backcountry, because my other co-host, Aaron Snyder, he spends a lot of time in the backcountry, and he's been doing it for years. He goes and dehydrates. He cooks his food up in a crock pot, and then he just dumps it on the dehydrator, dehydrates it down, puts it in a bag, rehydrates it on the mountain. He's like, and it's all stuff I like to eat and that I know what it tastes like already. So it's like, it's a nice way to go. What I like about Heather's Choice is I can do some of my own stuff, yes, but then I can add some more exotic things in there, like dark chocolate chili, and salmon chowder. I mean, I'm not doing that at home. I'm just not. I'm going to do like beef stew at home because that's me, and then I'm going to get bored of it every day. So if I have like a little Heather's Choice and a little Brian Call, then it'll be easier on the pocketbook too. But I want to make sure, I would like to see you continue to be really successful and have everybody get out there. And hopefully, you get to where you can buy 20,000 heads of cattle, and then it's just a lot cheaper.
I know, and I would say too, like the hunting community has been so unbelievably supportive, and the biggest thing that people can do for me if they want to continue to show support is give me feedback, because I am super open to it and always making improvements on the products, and that's the best thing that folks can do is take it out, field test it, actually go on some big epic trips for 10 days and come back and say, hey, I ate Heather's Choice for 10 days and it worked or it didn't work. But
I'll tell you, like, people are like, why would you buy a backpack? I'm not going to buy a $800 backpack like Kafaru,
Right.
And they're like, no way. But once you've done it and had it, you're like, it was worth the money because you're wearing it all the time. It's beating it, it's just so nice to have one that carries well. I look at the food kind of the same way. It's like it's so good. It feels so good. Like I always tell people, go put the pack on, put 100 pounds in it, walk around for an hour, and then decide whether you want it or not.
Right.
So we'll do
that with your food. We'll eat your food, and we'll do that whole hardcore thing with it, and then we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll do the test.
That'll be great.
Trust me, if it's the way I think it's going to be, we'll be screaming it.
Yeah.
Letting
I'm
everybody
excited.
know.
I'm excited.
Yep.
Thank you, Heather,
Thank
for
you,
coming on.
guys.
Thank you.
Heather, Teresa Kelly, we really appreciate it. Stay gritty.
That's right. Cheers. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, gritty friends, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. We love reading your reviews. And connect with us on social media if you're on there. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can receive notifications when we upload new videos. We've got a sweet deal with Mountain Ops. You get 20% off on all Mountain Ops supplements, combo packs, and apparel when you type in the word gritty at checkout. If you're a hardcore elk hunter, or you want to be, go to the Elk 101 website online and check them out. Our friend Corey Jacobson is killing it with some of the best elk hunting information and entertainment on the web. If you haven't heard, we're doing a huge gear giveaway to try and grow and expand the gritty community on Facebook and Instagram. I asked a bunch of friends to pitch in on this gear giveaway, and they all came through with some awesome stuff. Our friends at Kafaru, Rockslide, First Light, Phelps Game Calls, One Shot Gear, Mountain Ops, Triple X Archery, Blacktail Outdoors, and Is It September Yet are pitching in some sweet gear for the giveaway. We'll announce all the details in the next few weeks. All you have to do to be entered to win is like our Gritty Bowman Facebook page and follow us on Instagram. All right, friends, let me leave you with one other quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things." We all have a choice. We can be people who do things or people who criticize the work of others. It's pretty simple, really. Get out there and do your thing. Good luck on your hunts, and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.